In 2022, the world population crossed over 8 billion people for the first time. Now, that's a lot of people. To give you some idea of how big that number is, let's look at it in terms of time. If we take a second to consider how much 8 billion seconds are, that's approximately 254 years. So if you were born right now and started counting without doing anything else, by the time you reached 8 billion, you would be 254 years old. So we now understand that 8 billion is a big number. But what would it look like if all of us lived in the same building? Is it even possible with our current technology to build something so massive that it could house all 8 billion of us? First, let's travel to Whittier, Alaska. In this city, interestingly enough, every one of its 265 residents lives in a single building. They don't really have to leave the building either, since inside, they have access to every service found in a typical city. There is a police department, a post office, the mayor's office, a general store, a grocery store, a hospital, a hotel, laundry facilities, a church in the basement, and even a playground with a pool. The building is essentially the city itself, and the residents rarely need to leave it, except for those working outdoors. We can see there are examples of city populations living in one building. However, even so, only 265 people live there, which is nowhere close to 8 billion. We can check out other buildings, of course. There are many large indoor stadiums with capacities of over 100,000 people. For instance, the Rungrado 1st of May Stadium in North Korea can hold approximately 114,000 people. However, the largest ever planned indoor stadium was to be constructed in Berlin after Nazi Germany won World War II. Its name was the Volkshalle, and it was supposed to be able to hold 180,000 people, which is around 5% of modern-day Berlin's population. The building would have been so massive that if filled to the brim with people, the moisture generated would create its own microclimate inside. But if we look at outdoor stadiums, the largest capacity jumps to 235,000, held by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. However, the largest ever planned outdoor stadium was again conceived by Nazi Germany, the Deutsches Stadion in Nuremberg. It was designed to seat exactly 400,000 people, which is more than the population of Wichita, Kansas, which has about 460,000 residents. But the largest capacity building in the entire world is the mosque in Mecca, the Masjid al-Haram. During the Hajj period, the mosque can fit up to 4 million people inside, which is greater than the population of several countries, such as Croatia. As you can see, we have some impressive buildings with large capacities, but it's nowhere near 8 billion. So, let's get to the main part. First of all, I want to direct your attention to New York City. If we take all 8 billion of us, and every single person stands next to each other in 1 square foot, we can all fit into New York's territory without counting the waterways. Don't believe me? Let me prove it. New York City's land area is approximately 302.6 square miles, about 784 square kilometers. 1 square mile equals 27,878,400 square feet. So New York City has approximately 8.43 billion square feet, meaning theoretically, 8 billion people could stand in the city if each person occupies 1 square foot. If we look at New York from a map, we can see the tiny dot on the map. So yes, theoretically, all the human population can fit in that small area. However, that's a city and not a building. And also, that's if everyone would stand next to each other with no room to move. Let's take some more realistic numbers. Let's take a square meter. I apologize to every American watching, but it's much easier working with the metric system. Inside, we can fit around 5 people without it getting dangerous. Even 5 is a bit of a stretch, but I will keep it at 5 for now. Now we need to see how many square meters we will need to fit 8 billion people. So, 8 billion people divided by 5 people per square meter equals 1.6 billion square meters. Now, let's convert that to square kilometers. 1 square kilometer equals 1 million square meters. So 1.6 billion square meters divided by 1 million equals 1,600 square kilometers. So to fit 8 billion people comfortably, we would need an area of 1,600 square kilometers. So to fit 8 billion people comfortably, we would need an area of 1,600 square kilometers. To give you an idea of how big that is, it's about the size of the city of London or the island of Maui in Hawaii. But we are only thinking two-dimensionally here. Technically, we can also go upwards. Let's check some of our highest buildings. The highest building ever made by man is currently the Burj Khalifa, standing at 830 meters tall. And before the project was closed, the highest planned building would have been the Jeddah Tower at 1,008 meters. But Dubai had even grander plans with their Dubai Creek Tower. Its official height was never stated, presumably because of the rivalry they had with Saudi Arabia, but it would surely have been higher than the Jeddah Tower. Let's say 1,100 meters tall. So, we can see that we have the technology to build at least a kilometer high. If we take that height and add it to our building, we would get, to fit 8 billion people comfortably, we initially calculated that we would need an area of 1,600 square kilometers. Now, if we use a height of 1 kilometer for our building, the required area decreases significantly. Instead of spreading out over 1,600 square kilometers, we can fit everyone in a much smaller footprint. But let's consider the average height of a human, which is approximately 1.7 meters. With 5 people occupying 1 square meter, each person would effectively occupy a volume of 1 square meter divided by 5 equals 0.2 square meters, and then multiplied by the height of 1.7 meters equals 0.34 cubic meters per person. So the total volume needed would be 8 billion people times 0.34 cubic meters per person equals 2.72 billion cubic meters. Now, let's calculate the area needed if the building is 1 kilometer high. 2.72 billion cubic meters divided by 1,000 meters equals 2.72 million square meters. Converting this to square kilometers, it is only 2.7 square kilometers. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the size of Central Park in New York City or the total area of Monaco. So by building vertically to a height of 1 kilometer, we can fit the entire human population into a building with a footprint smaller than Central Park. If you like this more mathematically focused video, please like and subscribe to the Atlas Cove.